Bonne Citoyenne was a 20-gun corvette of the French Navy launched in 1794, the name ship of a four-vessel class. She was part of the French fleet active in the Bay of Biscay and English Channel. The Royal Navy captured her in 1796, commissioning her as the sloop-of-war HMS Bonne Citoyenne. Under British command she served in the Mediterranean, including at the Battle of Cape St. Vincent. She was taken out of service in 1803 but returned following refitting in 1808, then serving in the Atlantic. Her most famous action was the capture of the much larger French frigate Feuillars on 6 July 1809, for which her crew earned the Naval General Service Medal. The later part of her career was spent in South America. Her design was used as the basis for the Hermes-class post ships. She was laid up in 1815 and sold in 1819. French service and capture. Bonne Citoyenne was built and launched in 1794, put into service in 1795, and served in the English Channel and the Bay of Biscay. On 4 March she left Rochefort under the command of Capitaine de Vaisseau Mihail Bourdonnais. She was in the company of the French frigates Forte, Seine, and Regenerer and the brig Mutin. They were sailing for the Isle de France with troops, and Bonne Citoyenne also had a great deal of soldiers' clothing on board. Bonne Citoyenne had the misfortune to be damaged in a storm and to become separated from the rest of the French squadron. On 10 March she had the further misfortune to encounter the fifth-rate frigate HMS Phaeton under the command of Robert Stopford and his squadron. The squadron captured her 58 leagues off Cape Finisterre. Stopford then took her back to England as his prize. She was commissioned into the Royal Navy as HMS Bonne Citoyenne. Two men from Bonne Citoyenne's acute allies, who had been chief helmsman, and Thierry, a pilot, made an unsuccessful attempt to escape from Petersfield prison after 7 months' captivity. Consequently, they were put on board the Lady Shore, which was to carry them, another 6 French prisoners, and some convicts to Botany Bay. On the way they fomented a mutiny, seized the vessel, and took her into Rio de Janeiro, where a French frigate squadron under Captain Landolphe, comprising ME Acute DE Acute T, Franchise and Concorde, rescued them. British service. Mediterranean. Bonne Citoyenne's first captain was Commander Sir Charles Lindsay, who took command in June 1796. On the 22nd of September she captured the John George. 10 days later, she captured the Jethro Van Altona. Lindsay sailed for the Mediterranean in January 1797, where she joined a squadron under Lord Viscount Gardas, off Cadiz. The squadron also included Lively, Niger, Melager, Raven, and Fortune. That month they captured the Spanish merchant vessels Santa Natalia and Caridad. Bonne Citoyenne was in company with the other vessels of Garley's squadron when they captured the Spanish brigs San Juan Baptista on 6 February and the Virgin de Montserrat 3 days later. At about the same time they also captured the Spanish ship San Francisco, which they sent into Lisbon. Bonne Citoyenne was at the Battle of Cape St. Vincent on 14 February, when she signalled Admiral John Jervis that she had sighted the French fleet. Bonne Citoyenne shared in the prize money arising from the battle. In 1847 the Admiralty authorized the issuance of the Naval General Service Medal with clasp St. Vincent to all surviving claimants from the battle. The British anchored in Lagos Bay with the prizes. Jervis then sent a squadron, that included Bonne Citoyenne, under Captain Velters Cornwall Berkeley in Emerald to find the 130-gun Santissima Trinidad. 6 days later they did, only for Berkeley to break off the chase and lose her, for reasons that have never been explained. Terpsichore came up and found Santissima Trinidad, firing several broadsides into her before she broke off the engagement. As Santissima Trinidad was much larger and more heavily armed than Terpsichore, it is not clear what Bowen actually expected to accomplish. At some point, Bonne Citoyenne, Emerald and Alcmene shared in the proceeds of the capture of the Spanish ship Concordia. In March, Captain Lord Mark Kerr took command, only to be replaced in May by Commander Richard Retallick. Bonne Citoyenne then had a productive summer, capturing 2 privateers and numerous other vessels. Clairvaux, a French privateer, of 9 guns and 43 crewmen. Bonne Citoyenne captured her between Carthagena and Oran. Clairvaux was 8 days out of Carthagena but had taken nothing. Bonne Citoyenne sent her to Algiers, Canard, a French privateer of 16 guns and 64 crewmen. She was 3 months out of Marseille and had captured 1 Prussian and 1 Russian vessel, as well as 1 vessel under the Turkish flag. Bonne Citoyenne sent her into Malta. 2 Spanish brigs sailing in ballast from Catalonia to Trieste, but carrying $8,900. A Spanish tartan, Jean del Rosario, which was sailing from Barcelona to Menorca with 20 recruits. Retallick reported that the wind being to the southward, and scarce of water, sent all the prisoners on board of her. 8 other Spanish merchantmen of small value. Commander Josiah Nisbet replaced Retallick in May 1798. On the 28th of October, Bonne Citoyenne and Goliath captured 2 vessels off Capo Passaro, Sicily. Both belonged to the French Republic. The brig San Giovanni e San Nicolo was carrying corn. The Bologna was carrying merchandise, with both vessel and merchandise being Genoese property. Bonne Citoyenne joined Admiral Horatio Nelson's squadron and went out with it to the Mediterranean, but did not arrive at Abu Qir Bay until 10 days after the Battle of the Nile. Nisbet was promoted to post captain in December. In January 1799, Nelson ordered Bonne Citoyenne to convey the Turkish ambassador to Constantinople. Nisbet returned to Palermo with dispatches from Constantinople for Nelson. She then sailed to Malta to join the fleet blockading the French garrison there, arriving in early April. Commander Thomas Malling took over in August. His successor in September was Lieutenant Archibald Duff, who left after the Admiralty refused to confirm the appointment. The next month, Commander Robert Jackson assumed command. Bonne Citoyenne was among the many vessels of the Malta blockade sharing in the prize money accruing from the capture on the 18th of February of the French warship Genieux. The first distribution of the proceeds of the hull, provisions and stores totaled 24,000 liras. On the 2nd of April the squadron captured the Guillaume Tell, with the vessels of the squadron sharing in the prize money. Similarly, Bonne Citoyenne shared in the capture on the 6th of April of the French Polac Vengeance, which was going into La Valletta. Next, on the 27th of June, vessels of the squadron captured the French privateers Redoutable and Entreprenant. Bonne Citoyenne was also among the vessels sharing in the proceeds from the capture of the French frigate Diane on the 25th of August off Malta as she and Justice attempted to escape. Although the British captured Diane, Justice was able to slip away in the dark. On the 5th of September 1800, the British took Malta after 2 years of blockade. Bonne Citoyenne was among the vessels and regiments that shared in the prize money. On the 18th of October, an Anglo-Portuguese squadron shared in the capture of the Ragusan Polaca Madonna della Gracia e San Gaetano, which was carrying plate, amongst other cargo. The British vessels were Alexander, Terpsichore, Bonne Citoyenne and Incendiary, and the Portuguese vessels Príncipe Real, Reina de Portugal, Alfonso de Albuquerque, and the corvette Benjamin. The seizure on the 27th of October of two Greek polacas off Malta also led to a shared payout, this one involving more, but only British vessels. One of the polacas was the San Nicolo, but the name of the other is unknown. Nelson ordered the hulls burnt before La Valletta. The seizure on the 31st of October of the ship Fowler involved three other British vessels, Lutine, Strombolo, and Transfer. On the 31st of December 1800, Jackson and the Bonne Citoyenne captured the Spanish privateer Sete Vives about 20 leagues off Cape Mola outside Port Mahon. Vives was armed with 10 9-pounders and had a crew of 80 men. She was 10 days out of Palma and had previously captured a merchant vessel carrying wine from Port Mahon to Cittadella. Jackson recaptured this ship too. Bonne Citoyenne then returned to Gibraltar. She was among the vessels that shared in the capture of the Eurydice on the 9th of February 1801. Next, she sailed for Egypt with Lord Keith's fleet. The force attacked the French at Alexandria. On the 9th of June, Bonne Citoyenne and the brig sloops Port Mahon and Victorieuse captured the Bonaparte, Vierge de Neiges, Félicité and Josephine off Alexandria. The prize money was forwarded by the British agent there. Next, Bonne Citoyenne shared in the capture of the Almas di Purgatoria off Alexandria on the 28th of July. After the Battle of Alexandria and the subsequent siege, Captain Alexander Cochrane in the 74-gun third-rate Ajax, with Bonne Citoyenne, Cynthia, Victorieuse and Port Mahon and 3 Turkish corvettes were able to enter the harbour on the 21st of August. In 1850 the Admiralty awarded the Naval General Service Medal with class Egypt to the crews of any vessel that had served in the campaign between the 8th of March and the 2nd of September 1801. Bonne Citoyenne is listed among the vessels whose crews qualified. Jackson was promoted to post captain in April 1802. His replacement in May was Captain Philip Carteret. Bonne Citoyenne was paid off in 1803. By 1805 she was moored at Chatham, where she underwent repairs in 1808. She was recommissioned under John Thompson in May 1808, and served off the north coast of Spain. William Mounsey replaced Thompson on the 18th of April 1809. He then took dispatches to Earl St. Vincent. While Mounsey was in command of Bonne Citoyenne, she ran down and sank a merchant vessel, the Doris. Lieutenant Symes, first lieutenant of Bonne Citoyenne, was the officer of the watch and was on deck at the time. The owners of Doris sued Mounsey, but the case was dismissed on the grounds that Mounsey had not appointed Symes. Bonne Citoyenne captures Furieuse. Bonne Citoyenne returned to England after delivering the dispatches, and on the 18th of June sailed from Spithead in company with HMS Inflexible. The two were acting as escorts for a convoy bound for Quebec. Whilst she escorted the convoy, on the 2nd of July, lookouts spotted a suspicious sail astern, and Mounsey dropped back to investigate. In doing so he lost sight of the convoy. As he sailed to rejoin the convoy, on the 5th of July he came across a French frigate that was in the process of capturing an English merchant. Despite the frigate's substantially larger size, Mounsey immediately gave chase, at which the French ship fled northwards. After a chase lasting 18 hours, the Bonne Citoyenne caught up with the French ship on the morning of the 6th of July and brought her to battle. The subsequent engagement lasted 7 hours, with Bonne Citoyenne at a disadvantage early on, when 3 of her guns were dismounted. She nevertheless fired 129 broadsides to the enemy's 70. By the end of the battle, Bonne Citoyenne had lost her topmasts. Her lower masts were badly damaged, and her rigging, sails and boats had been shot to pieces. Running out of powder, Mounzy decided to force the issue and ordered his men to be prepared to board the French ship. Before he could do so, the French surrendered and Mounzy took possession. The enemy ship was discovered to be the Feuilleuse, which had sailed from the Isles des Saints on the 1st of April, carrying sugar and coffee to France. She was capable of carrying 48 guns, but she was armed en flute, only carrying 20 at the time. Even so, the weight of her broadside was considerable, as she carried 12 42-pounder carronades, 2 long 24-pounder guns, and 6 other guns of smaller caliber. She also had a much larger crew, with 200 sailors, 40 soldiers, and a detachment of troops from the 60th Regiment of the Line. Feuilleuse had suffered heavy damage. She had lost her masts, had 5 feet of water in the hold, and her casualties numbered 35 killed and 37 wounded. By contrast, Bonne Citoyenne had lost just 1 man killed and 5 wounded. Mounzy attributed the smallness of his losses to the lowness of the Bonne Citoyenne's hull, and being so close under the enemy's guns. Feuilleuse was patched up, with a great deal of effort, to the point where Bonne Citoyenne could tow her into Halifax, where both underwent repairs. The Royal Navy took HMS Feuilleuse into service under her existing name. Bonne Citoyenne returned to England in September. A round of promotions followed the victory. Bonne Citoyenne's first lieutenant received a promotion to commander and Mounzy one to post captain, effective the 6th of July, i.e. the date of the battle. Mounzy was promised command of Feuilleuse once she was repaired. Captain John Simpson commissioned Feuilleuse in Halifax and sailed her to Britain, arriving in Portsmouth on the 20th of June 1810. She then underwent repairs. Mounzy then commissioned her in November 1811. Inflexible sued in Vice-Admiralty Court in Halifax to share in the prize money from the capture. However, the court ruled that Bonne Citoyenne was the sole captor. The Admiralty issued Mounzy with a gold medal for the action, one of only 18 that they so honored. In 1847 the Admiralty issued the Naval General Service Medal with class Bonne Citoyenne.W.H. Feuilleuse to all surviving claimants from Bonne Citoyenne, Green and the Americans. When Mounzy left Bonne Citoyenne in 1810, his successor was Commander Richard James O'Connor. On the 21st of June 1810, Bonne Citoyenne captured the French privateer Maître de Dance in the Channel. She was pierced for 14 guns but only mounted 4, and had a crew of 30 men. O'Connor sailed Bonne Citoyenne on a convoy to Madeira on the 11th of July 1810. In November, Pitt Burnaby Green took command. Green was promoted to post captain on the 7th of March 1811, after which Bonne Citoyenne was reclassed as a post ship. Green sailed her to the South American station on the 12th of March. Bonne Citoyenne was based at the River Plate, and Green was the senior officer of the station from December 1811 to September 1812, when Captain Peter Hayward arrived. With the outbreak of the War of 1812, Green took on a cargo of specie, worth some £500,000, and sailed from Rio de Janeiro. Unfortunately, a grounding damaged Bonne Citoyenne and he was forced to put into Salvador for repairs. Whilst she was in port, his 2 American warships, the US Constitution and US Hornet, arrived. James Lawrence of the Hornet sent a challenge to Green, offering a single-ship combat, with Commodore William Bainbridge of Constitution pledging not to intervene in any way. Bonne Citoyenne and Hornet were evenly matched in terms of the number of guns, weight of the broadsides, and sizes of the crews. In his reply, Green stated that he expected that he would emerge the victor in such a conflict. contest, but that he could not expect Bainbridge and Constitution to forsake their duty to intervene should Bonne Citoyenne emerge the victor. Consequently, he declined the challenge at this time and place, but stated that he stood ready to accept the opportunity should the circumstances be different. Constitution left on 6 January 1813, but Bonne Citoyenne did not sortie even though Hornet was now apparently alone. The arrival of the third-rate Montague on 24 January 1813 finally forced Hornet to leave. She sailed for the Caribbean where off the Demerara River, she encountered and captured the sloop HMS Peacock, which subsequently sank. Green sailed for Portsmouth on 26 January, arriving there in April. Bonne Citoyenne then returned to Jamaica, before again returning to Britain. Fate. In August 1814 a Sir Captain Augustus Clifford took command of Bonne Citoyenne. She was laid up in Ordinary in January 1815. The Navy put her up for sale on 3 February 1819, and sold her on that day to Joshua Crystal for 1,550 liras.